Good afternoon, learners. Good afternoon. You are here in front of you is Mr. Zamama Choba. This is Mr. Zamama Choba, and I will be teaching you life sciences. Don't mind my voice now. Hey, I've got a terrible flu, and I will be teaching you life sciences under a certain topic today called photosynthesis. So, as I will be teaching you guys this topic, I am very well sure and profound that you, from your previous knowledge, you have actually heard of the word. Perhaps you've learned something about photosynthesis. What I'm trying to say is that I am sure that this is not your first time encountering this word photosynthesis. Ne? Yes, so I do believe that it is not the first time. Right. Guys, before we unpack this topic, before we proceed even more further, I just want to tell you that in this certain topic, if you want to make sure of it, you want to nail it, you want to know it, you must make sure that you have key questions in your mind that whereby at the end of the topic you are able to answer those questions. Right before you were taught about this topic, you were clueless, you had no idea. But now that you've been taught, after I've taught you this lesson, you will be able to answer those key questions. Now, my very same key questions, the key questions that I want to tell you about after I've done with this topic is that you should know what is photosynthesis, should know what are the requirements of photosynthesis, so what are the byproducts and also the waste products of photosynthesis, what are the products of photosynthesis, and you must also be able to tell and discuss the process of photosynthesis, and you must also be able to tell what is the function or what is the purpose of the plastic called chlorophyll in the process of photosynthesis. And you should also be able to relate photosynthesis in real life. Maybe when we are discussing, you must also be able. So all in all, let's just unpack our topic. Then at the end of the lesson, you will be able to answer those questions, right? Yes. Now, I first want us to unpack the topic. I just want to first quickly, I want us to first go through the. Yeah? I cannot begin to tell you about words and begin to explain without starting with the definitions and the terminology of this certain topic. We have to discuss the terminology first, concepts, and then we'll go to the core content of the topic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that the terminology of photosynthesis is as follows. You must be able to define photosynthesis. You must be able to define radiant energy. You must be able to define potential energy. You must be able to define independence. You must be able to define interactions. You must be able to define oxygen, carbon dioxide. What is a byproduct? What is a glucose, starch. You must be able to know all those terms in order for you to be able to actually make sense of what we're going to talk about if we're going to talk about photosynthesis, right? You must be able to know those terms. What do they mean? What do they do? Some of them, where are they found? Their functions. Then you will be able to actually put it into your long-term memory that now a certain something is made up of something to produce a certain work. I'm making an example. Ne? Okay, without wasting further time, learners, let's just proceed. Let's talk about photosynthesis. Ne? Normally, photosynthesis, I always like to say photo means light, photo means light, and then I'll just make an example of a camera lighting, but just hold it there up to you that photo means light, and then synthesis means to make. It is to make, so it's photosynthesis. We are making that light. Now, you probably have an idea now of what is photosynthesis. You probably have a clue of what we're going to talk about. I'm not saying we're going to talk about soil. No, we're going to talk about light that is being made, photosynthesis. Okay, yeah. Now, photosynthesis, it is a process whereby radiant energy is converted into potential energy and which is stored, and now oxygen is released. Okay, I can repeat that one again. Photosynthesis is radiant energy which is converted into potential energy which is stored as sugars or as glucose, and oxygen is released. Meaning to say that that very same radiant energy, it is converted. They are saying that they are converting it into another energy, into a potential. Now you're starting to be confused. What is going on? Okay, now let's start with the radiant energy. Radiant energy, it is contained in the electromagnetic radiation in the sun, meaning to say that now by those words you know that radiant energy is found from the sun. It is in the sun. Radiant energy is from the sun. Yes, it is contained in those electromagnetic radiations of the sun. So you know where it is found now. Then we're going to talk about potential energy. Potential energy, it is energy that is stored and it's also used to do work. That very same way energy it is can be used to do some work. Yes. Now we're going to talk about the word interdependence. Interdependence, not independent, not dependent, but the word or the term interdependence. Now, interdependence, it can be two or more things that depend or rely on each other. Okay, so interdependence, it can be two or more things that depend or rely on each other. NgokwesiXhosa kuthiwa zixhomekekile. Yes. Now, that is what interdependence actually means. All right. Now, moving on to another definition, we can also define the term glucose. Glucose, it is simply the energy. Yes, that's the product of photosynthesis. It is what plants make through that process. Don't worry, we will go. Okay, you just know that glucose, it is a sugar, and you must know that it is in the simplest form. It is a food that is in its simplest form. Okay, since it is produced by that process by plants, just like that, it is manufactured. Okay, then we're going to talk about oxygen. Oxygen is going to be the gas released, and it is a byproduct of photosynthesis. All right. Now, by a byproduct, I actually mean that it is a gas or it is something, not specifically oxygen. Let me just say generally, byproduct, it actually means this is something that is produced while making something else. Meaning, if we're talking about the byproduct, it is just know that, okay, it is something. But in this case, it is not something, it is gas. Oxygen is gas. It is gas that is produced while we were making else. We were busy making something else, but we had what? Something called a byproduct. In this case, it is oxygen. And we also have starch. Starch is the energy stored. Ne? It is the energy that is stored. Then let's also talk about something else, a stomata. Ne? Stomata, it's a small, tiny pores in which absorb carbon dioxide. Okay, don't worry, let's explain it now. I just wanted you to try and familiarize yourself with these terminology, these terms, these concepts, so that I don't begin to tell you about something and that you don't know what is going on. We don't know. At least now you have a clue of what I'm talking about. Now let's try to assimilate. Let's try to arrange and ascend this process in an ascending order so that everyone is comfortable, so that everyone is able to understand what I am talking about. Right. Now, here in life, we actually need energy. we need energy, so as plants. Now we're talking about plants. Okay, don't worry, I will be making examples, ne? So don't worry, we're talking about plants. But living things actually need energy, ne? In order to sustain life. Okay, now as they need this energy in order to sustain life. Now take what I'm going to tell you and relate it now to the plants. Do not relate it to us. We're also living things, also need energy. But in this topic, we're talking about plants, ne? So don't worry. Yeah. Now, as these plants need energy, ne, to sustain life, what do they need this energy for? They need energy to grow. They need energy for growing. They need energy for moving, and they also need energy for warmth. Okay, so as we actually, so what I'm trying to say that we really need energy. So now this energy comes with interactions in an ecosystem. All know what is an ecosystem, ne? It is all the living things with their environment, ne? Now what we're going to talk about is that in order for these plants to be able to grow, to be able to move, to be able to get warmth, they actually need to make their own food by the process called photosynthesis. Now, radiant energy, ne, in trying to go even further content wise in this photosynthesis topic, now radiant energy from the sun, we spoke about the radiant energy. It is from the sun. Remember that it is contained by the electromagnetic radiation, meaning to say in the sun, meaning to say that it is found, excuse me, in the sun. Yes. Now the radiation energy, ne, that was converted into potential energy, meaning now to say the radiant energy from the sun, ne, it is trapped, ne, by the leaves. Now, as it is trapped by the leaves, it will be trapped by the leaves. Now, it will also be absorbed, ne? It will be absorbed. Now, you must be able to know that those processes we have a plastic that is called a chlorophyll, ne? So that very same chlorophyll is responsible. It is, and remember, ne? Remember, this is very important. The chlorophyll, it is a pigment that is found in only plant cells, not in animal. We do not have chlorophyll. In fact, we don't have plastics most of the time. Okay, we don't have them, ne? When I just know that we don't have them, then in furthermore your studies you will hear more about it. Ne? So just here in grade 8, just know that we don't have plastics in humans. Ne? Now, this very same chlorophyll, ne, it actually absorbs that radiant energy. Ne? So that radiant energy from the sun that was trapped by the leaf, and remember your leaf is green. Once your leaf is green, grade 8, just know that, oh, that leaf is green. This grass is green. Oh, wow. Then you should know that if it is green, tell yourself that there is the presence of a chlorophyll there. Just know that, okay? So as it is green, the radiant energy will be trapped, and then that pigment now, or that chlorophyll, will be responsible to absorb this radiant energy from the sun. And now you must also know, this is very important, that plants do not plants do not absorb, ne? That plants do not use directly that radiant energy. They cannot use that energy, ne? They need to first convert it into potential energy, ne? Only then they are able to use this energy now, ne, to actually try and manufacture their own food. Now you must know that this whole process happens in the presence of water, and also in the presence of chlorophyll, as we are talking about chlorophyll, in the presence of sunlight, which is we're talking about right now, and also in the presence of water, yes, or also in the presence of carbon dioxide. Now you must know that those leaves, if you look closely to a leaf, and I'm giving you, it's a homework you must go so that you actually believe, it's the truth, ne? But it is the truth anyways. Now you must know that if you look closely to those leaves, or if you just look at your hand, ne, very closely, there are things that are called stomata. Ne? Now that stomata, ne, Well, I'm making an example. Ne? In us, the stomata is responsible for something else. Ne? It is responsible for those sweats. Ne? But you will learn that in no, you guys are still young. You will learn about it. Ne? But if you look closely, we're not there. If you look closely, ne, there are those small, small, tiny pores. Ne? Now, the leaf also has those small, small, tiny pores. Now, those small, tiny pores, they are called the stomata, and they are responsible to absorb carbon dioxide. All right, in plants, they are responsible to absorb that carbon dioxide, that air to come in also. Okay, so that process of photosynthesis happens like that, and that chlorophyll will absorb the radiant energy. It will be converted into potential energy, and then carbon dioxide will also enter as one of the requirements of photosynthesis, ne, in order for photosynthesis to take place. Now, what will happen is that in terms of the water, ne, water will actually infiltrate right down to the roots of your plant. Ne? As the water infiltrates right down to the roots of the plant, the roots will actually absorb that water so that it goes right up to the stem of your plant, ne? So that the process of photosynthesis is able to take place, because simply because we are saying that water is a requirement. We need water in order for photosynthesis to take place, meaning to say that photosynthesis cannot take place if there is no water. Photosynthesis cannot take place if there is no chlorophyll, if there is no carbon dioxide, if there is no sunlight. It cannot, meaning to say now your plants will not be able to manufacture their own food. I hope you guys actually understand. Right. Now, moving on, what you should also know about photosynthesis, ne, is that in photosynthesis, we have what we call the equation of photosynthesis. Ne? The equation of photosynthesis, whereby we are having our water, which is a requirement, plus we're having our carbon dioxide, which is a requirement, plus we are having our chlorophyll underneath, which is a requirement also, and we're also having sunlight um, above, which is a requirement. And we're also going now into that process of photosynthesis. We're going to get our products and also our byproducts at this site, ne? Which now we're going to get what we call glucose, which is our product, which is the food that the plants were trying to manufacture. And then we're also going to have plus our what? Our oxygen. Our oxygen in this case is a byproduct. Don't worry, in this case we're talking about the equation of photosynthesis. As I'm saying plus, that is how you write, and then you write your water, your plus carbon dioxide, then it's going to be plus sunlight, and then you just write a long division sign that states underneath you're going to have your chlorophyll, and then plus we're going to get the product, which is glucose, and then we're going to plus our oxygen, which is our byproduct, which is something that we produced while we were trying to produce what? While we were trying to produce our glucose, ne? Which is the food. Those are plants, I mean to say, not we. We don't photosynthesize. We are human. Ne? Remember what I told you? We don't photosynthesize. We do not make our own food, but plants do make our own food. Now, I want you to know that in that term interdependence, ne? In that very term interdependence, you should know that interdependence, it is two or more things that rely on each other. Now, where does that come from? You should know that, or you should tell yourself that plants are having a requirement of a gas which is called carbon dioxide. We actually exhale that carbon dioxide. And then when we exhale that carbon dioxide, obviously plants are going to take that carbon dioxide through their stomata. And then they are actually having a waste product. Learners, now you're listening there. And then they are actually having a waste product, a byproduct, which is called oxygen. Now, they are taking it out of their cells, the oxygen. Now, you will find that when we actually want to inhale, we inhale oxygen. Meaning to say now, there's a relationship between plants and humans, meaning now to say that interdependence, those two or more things who depend or rely on each other, that relationship is positive when it comes to humans and also plants. Right, now I was just making something that will make sense, learners. Don't worry. Ne? It's just a certain example. Ne? So that is where interdependence comes from. And then we're going to talk about glucose and plants. Now, plants actually manufacture the glucose, which is our product, what we were making. And then we had something else that we had while we were making this glucose, which is our byproduct, which is photo. Sorry, not photo. Oh, my mind. Which is not photo, which is oxygen, the gas. Ne? Right. Now, we also get plants. Ne? Plants actually convert glucose. Ne? Plants convert that very same glucose into into starch and also into other chemical compounds. Ne? Now, as they convert the starch will be stored food. They store that energy. It is energy that is stored in starch, ne? And it is usually white in color. Ne? Yes. And then as they are storing this energy, ne, they store it and then they are also able to make other chemical compounds in the presence of chemical reaction. During chemical reactions, remember that this happens chemically, and also in humans we also have chemicals. For instance, we also have chemical reactions in our body, our metabolism. All we cannot see them with the naked eye. Ne? They are chemically, they happen chemically. Ne? They are not like we can see them in the naked eye. Oh, here is this chemical, is this reaction happening? No, we cannot see them. So you should also hold and bear that one in mind. Right. Moving on, let's talk about sorry, let's talk about the cellulose. Ne? Cellulose, which is very important. You should also know that cellulose are actually the main building material of plants. They are the main building material of plants, but you do not have to dwell much, but you just have to know that they are the main building material of plants. Right. I think for today, ladies and gentlemen, grade 8, I think for today we are done. We are done for the day. At least we've dwelled much more on photosynthesis. We've dwelled more on what is happening on photosynthesis. I so wish I had my chalk and my chalkboard so that I am able to show you at least in a schematic representation, but then at least we were able to relate it when there is a sun, when we see plants. Yeah, and then I think you guys, you should have yourself a wonderful day, a wonderful evening. Yes, a wonderful evening. All the best, and please go and read your books. Please go through that photosynthesis. And if you have questions, you can ask yourself. I'll be here tomorrow. Don't worry. You can ask me. I will try and explain even more further, and even more further if you didn't hear. So, meaning to say now, we as plants, remember, we have a certain relationship. Ne? We help one another. They need that carbon dioxide, and we actually need that waste product to them. So, actually, to say that, meaning now to say that waste product to us, it's actually some sort of a product, although we don't produce it, you see. And then they need the carbon dioxide, which is a waste to us. We don't need carbon dioxide. Result, if we were in a room full of carbon dioxide, we'd actually die. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, learners. See you. Thank you very much.